morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection. My name is Bavli, and I am one of the spiritual care chaplains here at Mackenzie Health. This is a service of Multifaith Reading and Reflection. Therefore, you will see throughout the service prayers and scriptures which represent some of our multi-faith community. We encourage everyone to participate in all aspects of the service and to enjoy and celebrate those aspects that they have found most supportive and helpful to you. We hope that everyone will learn something new today, and in that spirit keep an open mind throughout. Today's theme is on suffering and hope. So we will have an opening reflection, and this comes to us from St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. And where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. Our next reading will come to us from the Hindu tradition. The human body is the temple of God. One who kindles the light of awareness within gets true light. The sacred flame of your inner shrine is constantly bright. The experience of unity is the fulfillment of human endeavors. The mysteries of life are revealed. The next reading will come to us from the Jewish tradition. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it all together. You have hedged me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, and even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day, and the darkness and the light are both alike to you. Our next reading will come to us from the Muslim tradition. Praise be to Allah, who has created the heavens and the earth, who sends down the rain from the sky, and who has made the earth firm to live in, made rivers in its midst, who listens to the distressed when he calls on him, who relieves its suffering, and who guides you through the depths of darkness. Our next reading comes to us from the Christian tradition. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. And our next reading comes to us from the Buddhist tradition. May I become at all times, both now and forever, a protector for those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need. Good morning again, everyone, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for our service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection. Our theme for today is on suffering and hope, so I have a small reflection on that. So, there was a moment when I was walking through the ICU, and I locked eyes with a man, and I thought to myself, no way, it can't be him. I haven't seen him in over 10 years. What's the worst that will happen? If it's the wrong guy, I'll apologize and keep going. I stuck out my hand and he hugged me. He told me the story of his father, and all I heard in my mind was pain and suffering. This man I'm referring to was my elementary school teacher, who I haven't seen in many years. He had a big impact on my life, huge influence on my growth, and there he was in the hospital. Suffering is so much part of the human experience that we are somewhat inclined to take it for granted until we are actually suffering ourselves. Then we find ourselves asking all the big questions. Why is this happening? Why me? Why them? What is this for? What is its purpose? Suffering really does not get under our skin. Suffering really does get under our skin in irritating ways. And that is what gives us a lot of trouble. There are varieties of suffering, and they do not always bring the same symptoms. Suffering can be physical, mental, or spiritual. Sometimes only one of those, sometimes all three at the same time. Mental or spiritual suffering can cause physical symptoms, which on the surface may appear to be real suffering. At other times, the effects of physical suffering can cause mental or spiritual anguish. It is an endless loop that wraps our minds and takes our time on a daily basis. Suffering can be the greatest pain we experience. But the opposite can also be true. It can also be one of our greatest hopes. It is in suffering that we see people come together. Sometimes suffering can actually help build up communities. For example, the events that occurred after 9/11, or any tsunami or hurricane that impacts a community, most recently Hurricane Ian in Florida. People who are in the vicinity, they begin to do what they can to help those who are affected. Even people who lived at great distances from these events were touched deeply by them and responded in a variety of ways to help alleviate the tragedy and the suffering it brought. Viktor Frankl, he is a 20th century psychologist and a Holocaust survivor. He said, "If there is meaning in life at all, then there must be meaning in suffering." It is that kind of response that Frankl spoke, which begins to bring hope into suffering. Even if it is impossible to find the satisfying answer to the questions that suffering raises for us. Hope is found in how we handle suffering. If we allow the suffering we are experiencing to defeat us, to batter us down into submission, we will not find hope. However, if we seek to overcome it, to grow through it, and to find peace in it, there is hope, potentially, in the midst of the suffering we experience. We may not escape the suffering, but we can begin to slowly rise up in the hope that someday it will come to an end, and we will discover that we have endured to the end and come out as the victors. It is only as we look back on the experience that we begin to see that a greater being is indeed with us, which gives us hope in the midst of suffering. The readings today point to this imagery. The Hindu reading points to a sacred flame within us that shines brighter as we experience unity and fulfillment in our human endeavors. The Jewish reading speaks of the night as light and compared the two as being two sides of the same coin. The Muslim reading asks us to pray to a higher being who can relieve us of our pain and who will guide us through the depths of darkness. Christian reading points to a time when suffering and pain will be no more. And finally, the Buddhist reading speaks about how our human interaction is meant to bring light to those who have lost it and become a servant to all in their time of need. Viktor Frankl, who I mentioned earlier as a Holocaust survivor, he never lost hope while he was in the concentration camp. He had his moments when he began to question, to lose faith, but the one thing that kept him together was the people that were around him and the potential hope of a better tomorrow. He found meaning in his greatest suffering and allowed it to become a hope to the rest of his group that he was with. So now going back to my grade school teacher who I mentioned to you earlier, he kept talking to me about his father and the experience he had in the hospital. I kept listening and listening. And the more I heard about his experience, the more that I heard hope within him. He had a lot to take on. But by the end of it, he said, "It's so good to see you and thank you for listening. I'm starting to feel a little bit better now, especially to see you in the role that you're in now." That experience showed me that hope is being able to see that there is light, even a small amount of light, despite all the darkness that might surround us. Thank you. And now we will have a concluding reflection. May all beings be free and happy. May you recognize the power and beauty within you and within all. May you nurture the seeds of your becoming. May music be like a prayer in your feet, a drum to the beat of your heart. May your ministry be rooted in the power of Mother Earth. May your light sparkle and shine bright. May your heart grow green and healthy and whole. May generosity of spirit flow you like a river, and may your dreams of freedom be fulfilled. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's service. If you'd like to reach out to a spiritual care chaplain, kindly speak to your nurse and they know how to contact us, or you can find our contact information on the spiritual care icon on your iPad. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you all have a blessed holiday season and a happy new year. Thank you, everyone.